Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. أما بعد أحبتي في الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أسأل الله كريم رب العرش العظيم أن يتولنا في الدنيا والآخرة. A question was asked about the Raafidah Shia. A person asked, I'm a layperson. Can I make takfeer of them? Because you keep talking about takfeer and all these conditions and criterion for takfeer. Can I make takfeer of the Raafidah? First and foremost, Ahbati Fillah, our maqsad, our intention should never be about who and how much takfeer we can make in a day. And I know the questioner is not meaning that, but what I am saying is that so many of our youth are so busy with the issue of taking people out of the fold of Islam. And they're also so busy with taking people off the sunnah. Like it's like a badge of courage, or it's like as if this is the dururiyat. This is the first thing you need to know in Islam is how to take other people out of Islam or how to take people off the sunnah. No, that is not your priority. Now, with that being the case, there are people who have bid'ah mukaffara, and there are people who are kuffar asli or asliyin. There are people who are outside of the fold of Islam, period. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes takfir to the Ahl Kitab and the mushrikeen, the polytheists. We don't have to, those issues of takfir don't apply to the Hindus and the Sikhs and others because they're aslan outside of the fold of Islam. We don't have to look at the conditions of takfir. They are what are called a kuffar asliyin, that they are outside of the fold of Islam, period. But when we talk about those conditions and criterion and the wabit and the mu'ana', the things that prohibit from making takfir, we're talking about people who are associated with Islam in general. One of the great imams of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah in this time, Imam Abdulaziz bin Baz, rahmatullah alayhi, rahmatin wasi'ah, he was asked about the ruling of this sect, the Raafidah Shia, which is predominantly what you find, from Hezbollah and, some of the groups in Iraq, and predominantly the Iranian regime and the general masses are generally what are referred to as Ithna Ashariya, or they are Raafidah sect of Shia. And this has to do with their creed. And so Imam bin Baz was asked, he says, Ma alayya Raafidah hal yukhrijuhum min al-millah. So the question was asked, what about the Raafidah, and are they outside of the religion? Are they outside of the millah? Imam bin Baz, he responded, he said, أَكْثَرَهُمْ يُخْرُجُونَ مِنَ الْمِلَّةِ. He said, most of them are outside of the fold of Islam. أَكْثَرَهُمْ يَعْبُدُونَ عَلِيًّا. Most of them, they worship Ali ibn Abi Talib, رضي الله تعالى عنهم أجمعين. وَيَسْتَغِيثُونَ بِهِ وَيَدْعُونَهُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. So most of them, they seek help and support from Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and also Hussein and others radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and they supplicate to them, and they supplicate to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's also all kind of other details we're not going to get into here. He said, هذا كفر أكبر. This takes them out of the fold of Islam. That means they are not Muslim because they worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's where we're going to stop with what Imam bin Baz, because this is not just about his fatwa, but we wanted to use that as a reference. And so also the Imam mentions, because people ask, how do we deal with the awam? How do we deal with the general people from this sect, the Raafidah, the Shia? And he distinguished that although you cannot pray with them, you can't pray behind a Raafidah or any of the Shia sects, except what was known as the Zaydiyah, and that's other details outside of our scope of our discussion. But mostly you cannot pray with them, and you cannot eat their dhabiha. You cannot eat their food. You can't go to a restaurant and you know that they are Shia, especially Raafidah or any of most of the Shia sects, because they are, for those reasons that we mentioned, they're outside of the fold of Islam. They seek help from Hussein. They pray to Hussein. They make pilgrimage to these qubur and all these kind of bid'ah mukaffara, bid'ah which takes you out of the fold of Islam. So for those reasons, you cannot pray with them. You cannot, interact with them Islamically from those rulings in Islam. With that being the case, that the general ruling with how you interact, because you absolutely have to interact with people like this in many of the societies in the world. In many Muslim countries, the bottom line is Saudi Arabia, Bilad al-Tawheed. But at the same time, there's a huge population of Raafidah Shia, okay, especially in the eastern province. And even in Medina, there's one of the tribes, or there might be more than just the one tribe. But anyway, that you have to interact in those societies. You have to have a type of tolerance and what have you in that society. Maybe that's your boss, maybe it's your employer, and maybe it's your employee. So how do you deal with the general awam? And you as a layperson, how do you deal? Well, as is one of the conditions for takfeer in general, is one of the shurut of takfeer is aqama alayhi al-hujjah, is that you have to establish the proof. So, for example, if you're in a situation like that, although you cannot pray behind a person like this, nor eat their dhabiha, okay, nor marry from them, that you still should give them dawah. So you still should invite them to the sunnah. And I don't say you're going to be pushing on them every day, every time, you know, you're students, you're in class, you're in whatever, depends on a variety of things, but that you are going to, as far as the issue of making takfeer and so forth, you're going to invite them to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. You're going to illustrate the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and you're going to invite them. And this is how you deal with the lay persons, because the lay persons in general, they follow the religion of their scholars, the religion, their official religion of their locality, of their country. And so they often just follow based on taqleed, on blind following, and in ignorance. And that's why you find some of them will come to al-Islam. They will leave that bid'ah mukaffara and come to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what does that mean? That means for you as a lay person, as we mentioned some of those ahkam, that you will deal with them in that way, and you will try to invite them. And if they don't want to listen, you've done your job, and you keep it pushing, you move on. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive our evil. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad.